Hello, everyone. Welcome to this set of conversations about science diplomacy in our region in Latin America and the Caribbean. Today, we will talk about an important part within our region, which oftentimes seems to be, I would say, dismissed. And by that, I mean the science diplomacy of the Caribbean, the science diplomacy by the Caribbeans. And for this purpose, today we have invited Dr. Anne-Teresa Birthwright, who is the senior program lead at the Belmont Forum, and she holds a PhD in geography from the University of West Indies. And we're very glad to finally contacting you, Anne-Teresa. How are you today?
I am doing well, Pedro. Thank you so much for the invite to participate in this conversation. And hi to all the viewers. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what our discussion unfolds.
Great. So to start, we were thinking about asking you about the definition of science diplomacy, taking into consideration that you work at the Belmont Forum, which is an institution which works a lot on science diplomacy. In that sense, how would you define science diplomacy?
Okay, thank you so much. All right, so for me, science diplomacy is using science and scientific expertise as a common ground, right, to really establish diplomatic collaboration or cooperation in tackling the complex challenges that we're facing at this time. And not only that, but also just foster international relations and to really inform policy decisions, right? So using that scientific grounding, as that glue, that common ground to bring countries and nations together. Because, these challenges are so complex and transboundary, and they can't be solved by just one country. Indeed, there needs to be, collaboration, a coming together of sorts, kind of like an all hands on deck, to really push sustainability solutions or advance sustainability solutions, going forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is a very comprehensive definition that brings together plenty of the main characteristic of science diplomacy.
Yeah.
Now talking about your participation recently at the
Mhm.
Global Knowledge Dialogue, which, as far as I remember, took place last February. You had a
Is
participation
that a part of January to
uh,
February? Yeah.
yeah, I think that was the dates.
Yeah.
And now talking about this dialogue results, I mean, which one of these results coming out from this global knowledge dialogue, which one of those could be implemented within our region for the progress of science diplomacy in both in the Caribbean and beyond?
All right. So yeah, it was a real privilege to attend the Global Knowledge Dialogue. I've never been to Oman before. And well, even in that part of the world, I was so new, but I really appreciated the opportunity. And the people of Oman, they were so, gracious and just warm, and I love that. So my participation was kind of twofold. The first session that I participated in was on science education for our future, right? It's called Building Capacity for Global Challenges. And it was about looking at the way we educate and train scientists and researchers, in tackling both present and future existential challenges, like these complex challenges. And, this session really brought out that these researchers and scientists, they need the skills and the tools to conduct research that is both relevant and solution focused, right? To embrace inclusivity and research that is socially just, the practices of research that's socially just, and how they can effectively communicate to policymakers, right, and to society at large. This session really drew on the report that the International Science Council, the ISC, they're working on, they have a consultative group on science education, and it was really about also examining how stakeholders within the science system, so that the universities and funders such as the Belmont Forum, how can they drive institutional changes to better support and prepare both current and future scientists. And we find that like the outcomes of that is that there needs to be a transformation in higher education and research training to really equip these future scientists with the skills for equitable collaboration and policy engagement, right? For real world problem solving. And that's where the Advancing Leadership Program from the Belmont Forum, it seamlessly aligns with that vision of cultivating this leadership skill, or these leadership skills that are essential for impactful science, impactful research, impactful policies that are, that can be made at the national level and just, across international borders. So I think particularly, well, I'll go to the other session as well. The next session that I also looked at was, or participated in, was the changing context of science diplomacy, right? And it was about examining how the evolving landscape of science diplomacy, how it emphasized this need for a balance in global, regional, and national interests to really advance science as a public good. And this was also from a discussion paper as well. And, what we realize is that science diplomacy has traditionally been, like this tool for international collaboration, but it's like these different tensions that are rising, it makes it a bit more difficult because like right now we're living in such a fragmented and volatile and complex, polarized. I think the world has become so polarized now that it ever has been. So particularly for the Latin America and Caribbean region, how do we navigate that type of environment? And I would say two things that came out that could apply to our region is the idea of capacity building. I think that is extremely important, building capacity in science diplomacy, in advancing the type of leadership that challenges the system of silos and each country doing their own thing, capacity building that open up avenues for young scientists and researchers and policymakers to really work together, right? Because it's not easy to when you're part of this multi-actor team, to advance sustainability solutions, you have to deal with different perspectives. And when you deal with diverse perspectives, diverse views, diverse values, like you need particular skills to navigate that. And I think that type of training and capacity building is crucial and essential within our region, so that we can further advance the benefits and the advantages of science diplomacy, right, at a national level, at a regional level. So I think that's crucial. The other aspect that came out as well was it's all about collaboration and not competition. Right, that was a main theme that came out from the knowledge dialogue, where there needs to be an enhanced regional cooperation, right? How can countries work together even more at this time, considering the challenges that we're facing? So fostering, South-South cooperation and North-South cooperation, are these partnerships, exchanging knowledge and resources. I think that would be extremely crucial as well for our region to advance the good work that is being done, because there is work being done, right? You have science diplomacy strategies for some countries in Latin America being developed. But I do think that more can be done in terms of establishing those partnerships, establishing collaborative efforts. Yeah.
Sure, that is the purpose. Let's cooperate instead of promoting more and more competition.
It can be difficult though, especially,
Yeah.
with what's happening now in this world. Like, it's so polarized and fragmented. Like, everyone is just securing their own interests. And like, it needs to be clear that we can have a win-win situation when we consider each other. So it's not just being selfish. Like, right now, I feel like the world is at a selfish place, and it really takes these bold type of persons, or change makers that can really step forward and say, like, cooperation and collaboration is really needed if we are to survive together. I mean, we're all sharing one planet, right? So yeah, that's my thought on that.
Yeah, that would be the main spirit of, if you consider the science diplomacy has these two areas, these two pillars. So it's also a kind of an invitation to collaborate between those two communities.
Yeah.
Now, you've mentioned plenty of ideas that could be considered as recommendations for science diplomacy in Latin America and the Caribbean. So, but if I could make a wish and I could ask you to suggest one recommendation that you would suggest to advance science diplomacy in the Caribbean and in Latin America, what would you say?
I would say I'll go back to the first one of capacity building. Definitely. Advancing skills such as science communication. How do you communicate the research effectively to policymakers? How can policymakers communicate their priorities and needs to research so that everyone is on one page? I think that would be a crucial way of moving forward science diplomacy. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Capacity building. That is the one big way to make science diplomacy progress in our region.
Yeah, and I will say also, to add to that, oftentimes a lot of the programs, they are global north centered, and the opportunities for global south participants to engage in these programs, they are very limited, or there's a lot of barriers. So if we can really establish a lot more capacity building opportunities within the region, I think that will advance science diplomacy. Yeah.
Definitely. So for all those who are interested in this leadership program that Dr. Birthwright has just mentioned, you might find a link about this program in the description of this recording. And also for all those interested in getting to know a bit more about science diplomacy in Latin America and the Caribbean, we invite you to visit our website. That is diplomaciacientifica.org. and there you will find plenty of other information in Spanish or in English about science diplomacy in Latin America and the Caribbean. So thank you again, Dr. Birthwright, for all these conversations and insights, and I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.